Hello everyone, today I wanted to make a profile for a deck that I've been using for several weeks now that I was not really sure if I should make a video about it because I wasn't sure if it was consistent enough. But it has now won three different locals, it's played blue quite a bit and it's been pretty consistent. So I figured I might as well try to do a profile for it because you may not have seen something too similar to it before. It's essentially what I'm calling a Bee Brigade. It's a mix of black and yellow, specifically the D-Brigade cards. So first, let me start off with the eggs here. And for the eggs, I use 4 of the Pagumon, the on deletion ones, because you're going to be swinging with the Commandromons quite a bit. And the deletion lets you pick up the card that's next. If it's a black Digimon, you can pull it straight to your hand. And a lot of the times, it'll be another Commandromon or a card that you might need. For my 5th egg, I just use a Missimon, which just increases the power of a D-Brigade card by 1,000. Sometimes you need it, sometimes you don't, but you definitely want some of those eggs because you want to have something Digivolved on top of it to swing. Sometimes for blue, coming out with an egg under a Commandromon is good to get a swing off, right? And of course, we get to that main part right here with the Commandromons. I run 4 of the 2-drop Commandromons. Ideally, if you have one on your first turn, you drop it for 2, get one on the field. If you have another of the other Commandromons, you definitely want to Digivolve it over one of your eggs and set up potentially 2 attacks in your second turn. Next, of course, you have the Commandromon that's on deletion. You run 4 of those. And those guys, if you have them on top of the eggs, you actually get to both check the card on top and it goes to your hand if it's a black Digimon. And then on top of that, your Commandromon on deletion makes it so that you reveal the top 3 cards. And if you have a Commandromon there, you get to play it for free. And a lot of times, it makes it go really fast because you get Commandromons out on the field very quickly early on. And you can swing and take out security that way really fast and chip away. I also have the blocker Commandromon. You also run 4 of these. Usually, if this is in my hand, I like to Digivolve it on top of the egg. In emergency situations where I need to have a blocker on the field, I'll just go ahead and hard play it, but it's not very often. Usually, you want to go off of the Digi-Egg or potentially off of the Commandromon that dies and plays one. It's never too bad to have a blocker out there in this format. I only run 2 or the 4-drop Commandromon, and I do try to go over an egg. 4 is pretty expensive. If it does come out with the Commandromon that's on deletion effect, then it's better. But I don't run it too much. I've seen that 2 is usually enough. You're still running 14 Commandromons, which is plenty. You don't need the full 16. Speaking of that, the other rookies or level 3s would be 2 Chumon. You got to stop that memory gain. Chumon's usually pretty good at doing that, and you get it out pretty easily. You gotta stop the Pokemon. You gotta stop the memory boost. You gotta stop a lot of that memory gain using Chumon, and it's a pretty good card for that. I also run 1 Hagurumon, which does trash a Digimon with Machine or Cyborg in its traits, so that you draw 2 cards, and every single D-Brigade card is a cyborg, so if you happen to have one in hand, but you need to draw more, for example, you're looking for a Darkdramon later on, you are able to draw 2 by trashing one of those. And there's another card that works with it really well, which I'll introduce in just a few. I also run 2 different hybrids that are black, and then 1 Sealsdramon just to have another D-Brigade because you really want that Darkdramon later on. And the Gigasmon and Grumblemon are just essentially push to win buttons, right? You Digivolve off the top of the black Tamers, which I'll show in just a little bit. And they could also Digivolve on top of the D-Brigade Commandromons, right? You can Grumblemon on top of one of the Commandromons just for a little bit more DP, or to get a blocker for 3. They are kind of expensive, but they do work with some of the cards that I'll show in just a little bit. So in this deck, the B part, the yellow part, comes from the yellow that comes with it. So I run 2 Zephyrmon, 2 Kazamon, which will Digivolve off of my yellow Tamers. Nothing too much outside of that. I want them there so that you can go into Zephyrmon, which I do run 3 off. And you'll notice that Zephyrmon's actually also a cyborg, which means it can be trashed by the Hagurumon to draw 2 cards. So if you find yourself with a random Zephyrmon, just Sylphie, I'm sorry, in your hand, you can trash it with Hagurumon to draw 2 more cards. And you'll more often than not need Zephyrmon because you do run 3 in this deck, and you can eventually use it to heal a little bit perhaps. Another card that has been key for this deck success has been Shakuamon. Shakuamon keeps security checks from happening with Digimons with no Digivolutions. Since that rush is happening a lot, in this deck, people will try to rush you back, and they'll try to just place as many cards as possible. So if you're playing another Commandramon deck, for example, Shaq will keep them from checking your security. And this doesn't come up too often, that's why I only run one, but it has been pretty clutch in some situations. Darkdramon, I only run 3. You actually mill through your deck so often with the rest of the options and as well as the Commandramons that you will eventually draw a Darkdramon pretty often enough. You don't need 4, you need the room for other cards that might make a difference in the situation. But Darkdramon's a typical 13 drop to play it. However, you get you gain 2 memory for each D-Brigade in your trash. If you have up to 5, so if you have 5, it'll on play for 3, and it has rush. It can win a game by itself. You just bring it out for 3 net memory, rush, and get a hit off. And it's hard for somebody to stun something that's rushing into the field, so it works really well against blue. Dynasmon has also been pretty clutch. Dynasmon off of the Jet Sylphie will keep you recovering. It doesn't come out too often, but when it does, it works really well with the D-Brigade. I only run 1. And the fact that it lets you trash cards might actually accelerate the Darkdramon by putting some D-Brigades in your trash. If you happen to trash a Darkdramon, if you happen to bring out 2 Darkdramons with the ability, you can trash one and it counts as a D-Brigade, and then if you have 4 others, you can just summon a Darkdramon in the next turn, right? So that ability is actually not terrible here because it lets you put some cards in the trash that you might want to be in the trash. That is that situation here. We run 2 Omnimorph Source Defeats. Tamers are pretty rampant, and that being able to kill them is pretty good. And Darkdramon can digivolve into Omnimorph Source Defeat. So once you've rushed, you can go into Source Defeat, take out a Tamer, maybe keep your opponent from beating you by taking out a Tamer that could have digivolved into a Digimon and knocked you out. In blue, for example, that's pretty solid. Of course, it comes out with a trash. Omnimorph Source Defeat is a very, very powerful card in any sense of the words, and it works really well here with the Bee Brigade deck. Next are Tamers. I run 1 tie, black tie. That 1000 that you gain on your opponent's turn can sometimes be pretty solid, especially for the blockers. And there's of course a memory tamer, which is nice to start off with 3 because if you have a Darkdramon and 5 D-Brigade, you can bring it out and rush your opponent. So it's nice to have that 3 out there. Also run 2 Izzy and Joes. Whenever one of your black Digimon dies on your opponent's turn, for example a blocker Commandramon, you can tap this one to draw 1 card, and again this is one of those cards that help you get to your Darkdramon pretty quickly. And you gain 2 memory if your opponent has 2 or more Digimon on the field. With blue, that stuns a lot. Your opponent is trying to put out a bunch of Digimon. It might stun your Commandramons, but you can eventually just get so many out that your opponent and yourself have a lot of Digimon. You'll gain an additional amount of memory for each one of these cards you have out there. So, and if your opponent checks into insecurity, it's even better. I also run 3 Zoes. These Zoes are good for multiple reasons. First, it lets you know what's in security, and that's very important information, more so than being able to digivolve into the Kazumon and the Zephyrmon and eventually the Jet Sylphie. Knowing what's in security is pretty important. I run 3 of her, and you can grab a hybrid. It's not necessarily a yellow hybrid, so I can grab one of the 2 black hybrid Digimon if they are in security and use them as like a push to win button, or any of the hybrids that are yellow will come out with Zoe as well if you have it in security, and you can replace hopefully with something that's better, perhaps a Tamer or one of the option cards. In addition to that, I also run 3 of the yellow starter deck TK. If you get this first turn, it's pretty solid to put down a yellow TK like first turn. For the 2000 DP on security is not very helpful. A lot of the time security will be a Commandramon, but he also comes out for cheap, and it's like a Ricky. You can digivolve onto Kazumon or Zephyrmon pretty early in the game, and it lets you play, more importantly, it lets you play yellow options, which is arguably more important, as you'll see what the yellow options are in just a second. Pride Memory Boost is a pretty solid option card. What this card does is it reveals 3 cards from your deck, and you can play a black Digimon with a play cost of 4 or less. without paying the memory cost, and then it trashes the rest. So for example, if you pull out a Chumon and 2 Commandromons, which would be ideal for this card, for example, you could trash the 2 D-Brigade cards, which will count towards your Dr. and play a Chumon for free, and you're feeling pretty good at that point, right? Next, you also have Reinforcement Berry Boost, which is a very powerful yellow card that helps to recover a card to your security, as well as put a card in your hand. A lot of times that could be a Dr. that you need as a win button, right? And then if you have an Omnimon Choice Defeat, or if you have a Tamer, you can put that on your security and have it activated by your opponent when they swing. I also run 2 Iron Fist. Iron Fists have saved my life quite often. They delete any and all Digimon with the highest play cost. So if your opponent has 2 Jesmon, which has happened to me before, it would kill both because they both would have the same play cost. Iron Fist Onslaught off security is incredibly devastating to your opponent. They almost need to play around it if they don't want to die. They usually need to swing with their strongest Digimon first, which leaves the weaker Digimon more vulnerable to my last card in this deck, which is the Spiral Masquerade. And Spiral Masquerade is a very important card for this deck. You are putting out so many Commandromons very quickly, so many Digimon in the field very quickly, that Spiral Masquerade can delete multiples of them. The main thing that tries to stop Commandromon is, for example, Mechanorimons, or something that stun blue decks, stun gun, or decks that have like some sort of small Digimon. Perhaps a Modoki is blocking you from gaining memory to win. Spiral Masquerade reduces a Digimon's DP by 3,000 for each Digimon on the field. If you have 4 Commandromons, let's say they're all stunned, you could still use a Spiral Masquerade and kill 2 blue Digimon that are stunning on the opponent's side, and then you have 4 Digimon that you can swing with after that. 4 is not too bad of a cost, so it definitely is something that is very useful, that does not destroy and give your opponent so much memory that you cannot handle it. And honestly, Spiral Masquerade has been a really good card before, and with D-Brigade, it combos very, very powerfully. So ideally, you have several D-Brigade cards out on the field. Then you have your TK that could go into a Kazamon. You can Spiral Masquerade and wipe a board or one big Digimon minus 3,000 several times, for example. If your opponent hits into a Spiral Masquerade in security and you have some Digimon out, it can reduce their DP and get them eventually killed. Spiral Masquerade has been huge, deleting Terriermons, Modoki Betamons, Mechanorimons, the blue hybrids, Digivolving off of Tamers. Spiral Masquerade has been super key, and I love the combo of D-Brigade and Yellow having it available, and it has won quite a bit of store championship matches for me, and I'm very happy with its performance. I know it's late. We're going to move into BT8 at the time of this video coming out, but I think it's a really fun deck. It's a winning deck. It's something that I recommend everybody to try out at least once and see how cool it is to play, have fun, and destroy your opponents in ways that they didn't know. I think that's a big advantage, is that if you play something your opponents are not familiar with, they might misplay or underestimate you. Okay. All right. Thank you guys so much. This has been the Bee Brigade deck, which is, you know, what I'm calling it, thanks to the yellow and black. There's more to it that I can't think of right now, but you can, if you run it yourself, I'm sure you'll see more combos that I can think of at this time that I have been able to pull off, that you might be able to pull off. Or if you have any recommendations for how to make this better, hey, let me know about it. Thank you.